Hey guys, welcome to Big W Barbecue. My name is Nate. Today we're going to be cooking up some baby back ribs out on the Weber kettle. Thanks a lot for joining me here today. If you're new, a special welcome to you. Here on this channel, you will find recipes as well as tips and tricks that will hopefully help your time out at the grill go just a little bit smoother. If you want to stay up to date on the most recent content, please consider subscribing to the channel or liking us on the below social media platforms. I do want to take a second to call out Instagram specifically today. Out on Instagram, you will find some pictures as well as some sneak peek video of what may be coming up next. Hey guys, welcome to Big W Barbecue. Guess what we're doing today? That's right, baby back ribs. So I'm going to be cooking these ribs out here out on the Weber kettle, and what I got going on here is what's referred to as the snake method. Alright Instagram, we're at about the 3.5 mark now. I went ahead and wrapped these after a couple hours, and man, things are looking pretty good right about now. So with Memorial Day coming up, it's kind of the official kickoff for the grilling season. Last year, I went ahead and smoked up some baby back ribs out on my Weber Smoky Mountain. However, this time, I wanted to do a video on cooking up baby back ribs out on the grill for some of you that don't have smokers. If you're looking for a video on how to cook these out on a smoker, I'll be sure to link that up in the description, as well as I'll put a link up here. So what I've got here is I got a little over a 3-pound rack of baby back ribs. Now what I've done already is I went ahead, removed it from the plastic packaging, rinsed it off under the sink, and then patted it dry with paper towels. So the next step we're going to be doing here is we're going to go ahead and flip these ribs over. And on the bottom here, we've got a thin membrane, often referred to as a silver skin. And this doesn't really provide anything, and it's just another barrier for smoke to get through. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this. Now I just want to let you know that this can be tricky sometimes, so don't spend too much time on it, but just try to get off as much as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just grab a sharp knife here. I'm just going to try and get under that membrane and just kind of pry it up a little bit. So then the next thing that's going to be handy is just grab some paper towel here, and kind of gives you a little more gripping surface here. Doesn't need to be perfect by any means, just go ahead and get as much off as you can. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to be using a yellow mustard as the binding agent. Now this is not, you're not going to taste this in the final product, and all this is going to do is just kind of give the rub something to adhere to. And once you got a good coating of mustard down, then we're going to go ahead and just sprinkle on some rub. Then we can go ahead and repeat the process on the top side. And then go ahead and add some rub on this side as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to be cooking this out on the Weber kettle charcoal grill. So now what we're going to be looking for is a grill temperature of around 250, 275 degrees if you can manage that. So here very shortly, I'm going to take you outside and show you kind of a cool method here on how we can place the charcoal to kind of perfect that low and slow over several hours. Now how we're going to be cooking this is going to be with indirect heat. So regardless if you're using a charcoal grill or a propane grill, you want to only have kind of the heat coming from one side of the grill. So I'm going to be cooking this here is I'm going to be putting this out on the grill as is uncovered for the first 2 hours. After that, I'm going to wrap it for an hour, and then I'm going to put it back out on the grill for 45 minutes to an hour, just to kind of let it kind of firm up a little more, as well as we'll put the glaze on at that time. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and go out to the grill and let's get that fired up. So this particular formation here is what is referred to as the snake method, and all it is going to be a couple briquettes on the bottom and then one on top. And we're going to kind of just kind of line these around the outside of the grill. You probably don't need to go much more than half. I think this should be plenty for the whole entire cook of these ribs. Then we're going to go ahead and put, around a dozen charcoal here right here in the center. And then we're going to go ahead and use a wax cube to light that up, and that's going to go ahead and get these things cooking. And then after 15 minutes or so, once these charcoals are nice and hot, we're going to go ahead and add it to one side of the snake. And what it's ultimately going to do is it's going to slowly work its way around. And this is going to maximize that low and slow cook that we're looking for, especially with these ribs. What's really nice about this method here is that it avoids that hassle of having to pull the grates off and replenishing the charcoal. So once the grill is up to about 200, 225 degrees, we're gonna go ahead and throw the ribs out on the charcoal here. As you can tell, I'm doing indirect heat here. So I've got the ribs on the opposite side of our coals. Now, depending on the size of grill you have, as well as the size of rack of ribs you have, you may need to alter this or kind of slide this around as throughout the cook here, just to make sure that you're constantly getting an indirect heat. Then we're gonna go ahead and put the lid up here, and as you can tell, I put the vent right above the ribs. What that's gonna do is it's gonna help circulate the air, from the bottom through the coals and move that heat over towards the ribs. All right, guys, so it's been about a couple hours now. Went ahead and brought the ribs inside. Now this is the part where we're going to wrap it. Now this is totally an optional step. However, I like to do this because it kind of helps tenderize, kind of speed up the process a little bit there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using tin foil, as well as I'm going to be adding, we'll do some brown sugar as well as some butter. And this is just going to be a great flavor. It's going to really enhance these ribs. One other thing that you can do if you'd like is add some apple juice or some liquid inside the tin foil with it. What that's going to do is it's going to help the steaming process. So let's go ahead and get these guys wrapped up. All right, now that we got the ribs on there, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and add that brown sugar and butter on top of this. Then we're gonna go ahead and put a few slices of butter here. Now that we've added the brown sugar and butter, we're gonna go ahead and seal these up nice and tight. All right, awesome. Now we're gonna go ahead and throw this back out on the grill. We're probably gonna cook it for another hour, hour and a half. We're gonna kind of monitor it and see how things are progressing. Depending on that, we'll go ahead and pull it off, unwrap it, and toss it back out in the grill. So shortly after I removed these ribs, I went ahead and added a little bit more charcoal. I noticed that snake was progressing quite a bit, and I didn't want to run out halfway through there, so I went ahead and just added a little bit more. Let's go ahead and take this back out to the grill. Alrighty, so it's been about an hour and a half later. We got the ribs here inside again. Now I'm gonna go ahead and unwrap them and take them back out to the grill. But let's go ahead and see how they're progressing right now. All right, guys, so as I am kind of looking over things here, everything's looking pretty good here. I imagine we're probably gonna put this back out for about another hour or so, but we're gonna just kind of keep an eye on it after about a half hour or so. When we come back to, or we get to about 20 minutes left or so, maybe 15 minutes, we'll go ahead and put on some barbecue sauce. Now, depending on what your preference is, some people like to just eat them plain, which you totally can do. However, I wanna add a little bit of barbecue sauce there just because it kind of caramelizes and it adds even a little bit more flavor to this. So that's what I'm gonna be doing here. So let's go ahead and take these back out to the grill. All right, guys, we're back inside now. This took a little bit under 5 hours for the full cook here, and I'll talk about this a little bit later here when I kind of recap the cook. But I had a little bit lower for pit temperature, probably average around 225 or so. It took a little bit longer than what I was expecting, but that's not a problem at all. But yeah, everything is looking great here. We got a nice color. We got some pullback here on the ribs, which is what we're wanting here. And yeah, so I hope this is gonna taste as good as it looks. So one trick I like to do is I like to cut these from the backside. You kind of can see where the bones go, so it just makes cutting just a little bit easier there. So yeah, if you just kind of find in between a couple bones and go ahead and cut away. So yeah, you can see here, we got a lot of moisture in there already. Looks pretty good. Got a little bit of a smoke ring even though we didn't have any wood in there. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, so this looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and dig right in. Has a lot of good flavor there. That sugar, that brown sugar and butter mixture that we put on top there when we wrapped it, definitely tastes that. Very sweet, just got a really good flavor. So these ribs are just full of juice, which is fantastic. It's got a lot of flavor, like I mentioned. They're very sweet, so if you prefer a sweet rib, this is definitely the way to go. Add that brown sugar, like I mentioned. So on these particular ribs here, one thing that I noticed offhand is that they're not quite fall off the bone tender yet. So it kind of depends on what your preference are. Some people like them to literally fall off the bone, and some people like to have a little bit of a bite to them, you know. So it's totally your preference there. If you lean more towards where you want it just to completely fall off the bone, I would recommend keeping the ribs wrapped a little bit longer than what I did there. It'll help tenderize it a little bit more and kind of release that meat from the bone. A couple things right off the bat that I really liked about that snake method that we used for the charcoal was that it really helped with that low and slow cook. So while it worked its way around the snake there, it definitely helped out without having to replenish the charcoal so often. Now there was one time where I had to add more, and that was just because I didn't make the snake quite long enough. And also one other thing I would do if I had to do it over again was, so I used 2 briquettes on the bottom and then 1 on top. I would actually probably do 2 on the bottom and 2 on the top as well. Like I mentioned earlier, my pit temperature was around 225 or so, so it was a little bit lower than what I was expecting. I'd like to be able to come around that 250, 275-ish, which would help speed up the cook a little bit, but either way, it's not that big of a deal one way or the other. A couple things that I would like to hear from you in the comments below is there a way that you have mastered the low and slow cook in the charcoal grill? I'd be curious to hear if there's any formations or any other out there. I know there's tons out there, but I'd like to hear what your preference is. I hope that you guys have a terrific Memorial Day weekend coming up here. Thanks for watching this video. I'll see you in 2 weeks for the next one. Take care, guys.